Today, we're diving into the incredible story of a man named William D. Reynolds. He was a brilliant scholar who could have had a comfortable academic life, but he answered a very different call. His journey took him to early modern Korea, where his dedication would end up shaping the very foundations of the Korean church. So this story comes to us from Pastor James Hwang's book, Remember and Repay, 52 Weeks of Mission Meditations. Pastor Hwang is a researcher of Korean mission history. He actually served as a missionary in China and now ministers in Maryland. He shares these stories with us every week, and this right here is our mission history story for the 5th week of March.
Okay, so let's start at the beginning. We're going to look at the early life of William Reynolds, a guy whose incredible intellect was matched only by his spiritual passion. Reynolds was born back in 1867, and honestly, he was a true prodigy. We're talking about a natural linguistic genius. The guy was fluent in Hebrew, Latin, French, and German, languages that are incredibly tough to master. Of course, he graduated at the top of his university class before heading to seminary. You'd think a brilliant, comfortable career as a scholar was pretty much a done deal.
But here's the twist. You see, despite all that academic talent, his deepest desire wasn't for a quiet life in a library. Nope, he felt this powerful pull toward the mission field, and it was a calling he chased with some serious prayer and devotion.
And this really shows you his level of commitment. He actually made a pact with his friend Junkin. Every single day at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, they would lock their dorm room door and just pray to find a way to become missionaries. Then in 1891, it happened. The answer to those prayers arrived. He was at a conference and heard a report from missionary Underwood about the work happening in Hosan, what we now know as Korea, and it just stirred something deep inside him. This was it. This was the moment.
So, with his path finally clear, Reynolds got ready for a totally new life in a new land. He was about to embark on the journey that would define his entire legacy.
And he did not waste any time. By November of 1892, he and his wife had arrived in Joseon. Now, the next couple of years were a grind. It was all about adapting to a new culture and, for a language lover like him, diving headfirst into intensive language training. By March of 1894, he was ready. He arrived in the city of Gunsan to start his ministry.
Now, it's really important to remember he wasn't doing this solo. Reynolds was part of a foundational group they called the Seven Pioneers, sent by the American Southern Presbyterian Mission. This team, which also included his friends the Junkins, was sent to establish a mission in the Hanam region in southwestern Korea.
And this, right here, brings us to the absolute core of his life's work. A translation project that would literally shape the Korean church for generations and generations to come.
So, in 1895, all that linguistic talent of his was put to the ultimate test. He was officially appointed to the Bible Translation Committee. This wasn't just some short-term project. This was the beginning of a commitment that would span decades, translating the scriptures into the Korean language.
And this is absolutely crucial to understand. This was a team effort. It wasn't just a bunch of foreigners deciding how the translation should sound. The role of the Korean teachers was absolutely critical. For example, a huge part of Reynolds' success was thanks to his teacher, Kim Pil-soo, whose insights were completely indispensable.
And just look at this timeline. It really shows you how long and painstaking this process was. The first New Testament came out in 1900, but they weren't done, not by a long shot. They found errors, so they went back to the drawing board, publishing a completely revised version in 1906. And then, finally, in 1910, the entire Bible, Old and New Testaments, was published in a single volume. What a monumental achievement.
Okay, so you see this number up on the screen, 555. What in the world could that mean? It's not a Bible verse, it's not a chapter number. No, this number represents a level of dedication that is almost hard to believe.
Get this, between 1902 and 1906 alone, that translation committee, the core group being Reynolds, Underwood, and Gale, held 555 separate meetings. Can you imagine that? 555 sessions just to debate, revise, and perfect the translation. It's just an incredible testament to how much they cared about getting the Word of God right.
But believe it or not, Reynolds' work still wasn't finished. After that massive translation task was finally done, he spent his final years in Korea making sure the next generation of church leaders had a rock-solid theological foundation.
You could say his later legacy was built on two giant pillars. First, for 20 years, he was a professor at the Pyongyang Presbyterian Theological Seminary. And second, he took on the job of editor for a publication that was hugely influential.
And that publication was the Shinhak Jinam, or Theological Review. Now, the name itself basically translates to Theological Compass. And that's exactly what it was. It wasn't just some dry academic journal. It was a vital spiritual guide for pastors all across the country, helping to really solidify the beliefs of the young Korean Presbyterian Church.
So when you just step back and look at the whole picture, his impact is just massive. Through the Bible translation, he gave the church its foundational text. And then, through his teaching and the Theological Review, he gave its leaders the guidance they needed. It's like he built the house, and then he taught everyone how to live in it.
And that really leaves us with a big question to think about. The story of William Reynolds is such a powerful example of what one person's focus and long-term dedication can do. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it?